Hey, welcome back. The piston rings came in, so I'm going to get right into getting these tested in here, see if I have to make any adjustments. I probably will, since they are oversized piston rings. But I'll go through that whole process with you of fitting them in here, making your adjustments with a grinder, and getting them set for each and every piston. So I'm going to start with the first compression ring, the one that goes in the top of the piston. These are oversized, so these will have a little bit of a difficult time getting these in here, and it looks like it's going to overlap, but I was expecting that. Push this in here so it's square to the cylinder, and based off of what I'm seeing here, it looks like it's overlapping, so that's what I was hoping for, to be able to adjust these to the proper clearance. So I went and got myself a piston ring grinder. I'm going to make myself a little jig with this thing, but the basic process here is I'm going to set it up to use it with my drill. It does come with a little hand crank, but when you have the power tools, might as well use the power tools to make it a little easier. But the basic concept is you set this in here and you just grind one side or the other, and each side is set to a specific grit. So you just grind the one side and get that clearance down to what is actually needed for this engine, and then fit it in here and check your clearance. So what I did here is I had an old 4x4 and I just put a bolt through here. This only had a single bracket to hold it down, but yeah, this is going all the way through, and I have another underneath here to tighten it up. And I figure since there's not going to be a lot of tension here, I don't really need to worry about tying this down. The weight should be able to just hold it in place. This is, to me, a far better option than taking a file and taking this thing and just grinding it down, because that's going to take forever. So the next thing I did was I put zip ties in place, and all you have to do is just have the zip ties in place. And what you do here is you just put the ring like this, fit it up against the little holders here to hold it in place, that way it's square, and you just start grinding one side. And make small cuts when you do this, because I mean, if you get the clearance too wide, then there's no going back. You can only remove material, you can't add it back. So after putting the piston ring on the grinder a couple times, I have it to a clearance that I feel comfortable with. I'm going to post a link in the description below for the clearances that I'm actually using. I'm shooting for a measurement right in the middle for the top piston ring gap, and that's about 0.2 millimeters, and I have it right to that point. As you can see here, you can take this feeler gauge and it goes right in there, and it's a little bit snug, but that's the way that it should be. You want a little bit of resistance in there, but it actually does fit in that piston ring end gap. So now that I have it set for this cylinder, it is only going to be for this cylinder. So when you're doing these, make sure that once you do the piston ring end gap for each piston ring, fit it to that piston meant for that cylinder and mark it. It could be a piece of tape, it could just be set it out on the floor with cardboard underneath it, completely up to you, but it's only meant for this cylinder now. So I'm going to keep going with the piston rings on this engine. The second one I'm going to do is the middle ring here. For the second ring, I'm going to set it to 0.3 millimeters. That's close to the middle of the range for the middle ring. And I'll get that set up and for this piston. Then I'll move on to the other ones. So I'm going to video a little bit of that, probably speed it up with some music, so sit back and relax and enjoy. I got this thing from Amazon and it worked pretty good. The only thing that I don't like about it, and I'll have to modify, is the bolt that actually holds this disc in started coming loose. So I'm going to have to go tear this thing apart, put some Loctite on that bolt, and put it back in, and then I shouldn't have this issue. Other than that, this thing worked absolutely great for cutting down those piston rings for the clearances. So I have this tool right here. This is a small version of a tumbler. I put all the fasteners in here, and not exactly sure what these things are called. I call them bullets, but they fit next to the main caps. I'm going to put those in here too. So all the fasteners can go in here. This thing will just vibrate, and all this media is going to go over these parts and just clean them a little bit at a time. I'm going to leave this running for, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour. Just make sure everything is all nice and clean. I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. So I've let this run for a little bit. I put some Dawn dish soap in here as a degreaser. And I mean, you look at this, the bubbles off of there, and it just cleans them right up. I mean, even this thing, that just, it looks so much better than when I first put it in there. I really like this thing for cleaning bolts and nuts and things like that. I wish I had a bigger one, that way I could put some bigger parts in here. But it's not too bad for what it is. If you want to pick one of these up, I just picked this up at Harbor Freight. And yeah, I can't complain for what it does and for the price. So this is the result after washing them, rinsing them, and then drying them off. I mean, you can't do much better than this. Every single part, even this thing. I mean, even with this staining on here, I don't think I've ever seen one look this good. Unless you take a wire wheel to it or something. But for something that you can just set it and forget it, it is great. Thank you for watching the video. On the next one, I'm going to be taking a break from the 5.4 because I have some exhaust components coming for one of my vehicles, and I'm so excited to put it on. It's going to be awesome. I left a couple Easter eggs for what kind of vehicle it actually is, and I'm curious if you can figure it out. Until then, if you could give me a like and subscribe, it would really help the channel. And if you have any questions, leave them in a comment down below, and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. And I'll see you on the next one.